Hey you, I'm Anissa. Today's video is for anyone who is wanting to cultivate more self-love. Maybe it's to attract a partner who's at a high vibrational level. Maybe it's really just to feel good in yourself, your own inner power. Maybe it's to honor your creativity more deeply, your intuition more deeply. But the self-love journey is a forever journey, and it's so hard to begin finding the entry point, right? So I highly recommend this entry point by honoring the love that is within the child in you. Most of my videos are reflections and stories and writing and sharing wisdom from my lived experience, as I believe we are all each other's mirrors. We provide a mirror to each other to be able to see ourselves more clearly. So if anything I share with you resonates with you, take it. Take what you need and leave the rest. If you enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel to support. So in the video ahead, I'm going to share first writing to empower you on this self-love journey, and then how this topic became relevant and some tips and takeaways and guidance for you to reflect upon. I honor the child in me is the affirmation of the day. I want to give you a photo. It's the most cherished visual you have of yourself as a kid. It's one in which you are your most free, happy, expressed. It's a photo that brings memories of who you were in your wildness and playfulness at peak. It's an untamed, big dreaming, fully alive you. Imagine this kid with clarity, how they felt about the world, their world, the future. And bring a hand to your heart. Take a deep breath and remember that child is still within you. They want to be let out and brought back into your life now. What could you do to honor them? What's one thing they loved that you could embrace today on their behalf? You can love them back to life by loving them here and now. Spoiler, by loving them, you'll be loving you. So this topic of self-love became really relevant to me in this past week after sharing last week's video, which I highly recommend checking out. It was a video on the heroine's journey. I deeply emphasized that the pivot point of the hero's journey entering the heroine's journey, people feeling really discomforted in the outer world and the material world and achieving and success and gaining things, when it starts to feel empty and not enough, it's because we're starting to enter that inner world journey, which is also the entrance into the self-love journey. It's also the point at which people experience the most suffering and depression and difficulty, because that slope into the inner world comes with a lot of discomfort, comes with depression, comes with a lot of pain. And for many people, when they recognize they're entering that slope, they need something to know that it's going to be better, that it's going to get better. And the self-love journey world is thrown in our faces. And it's hard to decipher, like, where do we begin? I think for myself, I've always approached it by honoring this thing, which is my inner child. And I never recognized it as just honoring my inner child. I recognized it as honoring my creativity, my spirituality, my intuition. But what it comes back to is also just remembering that there's so many parts and pieces of you, but maybe there's one part and piece of you that you have the most empathy for, that you have the most compassion for, because it's hard to start with just doing deep shadow work and honoring the villain in us or honoring our darker sides. It's much easier to go back to the innocent part of you, to the pure part of you, to the child in you. And I was thinking about this in the context of a person who's deeply loved to me and really wanting them to be able to embark on their self-love journey. There's parts of ourselves that we have a little less compassion for. Maybe we're a little competitive or a little egoic in some ways, but then there's also a version of us, and all of us, who has such good intentions, who looked at the world with such optimism. And how can we honor that person within us? For myself, my love journey has been allowing creativity, and I highly encourage you all to embrace your creative expression. And to honor that child in you sometimes means getting back to our senses, getting back into our body. So my first book recommendation, my forever book recommendation, is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, which really honors us all as our artist selves, but also as our childlike selves by doing creative expression of writing every single day, by looking at the world anew, by tuning into our senses. We're getting back into that childlike state and recalling what we used to love, what things we dreamed of as a kid, how it lit us up, and actually embarking on doing those things today, taking ourselves on date, romanticizing our lives a lot more. Additionally, this topic became relevant to me because I've been on such a self-love ongoing journey of wholeness and really recognizing that in this lifetime I was very destined to have to go through the journey of really loving myself to find partnership that was more aligned. And so often we want to build attachments to people or places or things so that we can feel some satisfaction and outsource our love rather than learn to really deeply cultivate it within us first. So the self-love journey I find really essential development in this lifetime because we so often are already seeking that love in so many places. And when the external places don't feel satisfying to us anymore, then it's a note for us to go back inward and really return to that visual as shared in the writing, that visual of what were you like at your happiest, most peak childlike self. For myself, I remember myself running through the hallways with a best friend when I was 5 years old of this yoga center, and we were throwing oranges at the walls and cracking them open and just like eating them like wild beasts. And we were dancing and we were super untamed, creative. We were the embodiment of creativity by just being these wild children and running and being free. And it was a really beautiful feeling. And I always think about welcoming that back into my life. My favorite number is the number 5. And that's because I remember that during those times, it felt like the peak of life. And I always want to be able to have those peak experiences right here and now. You can have those peak experiences again. You don't have to look nostalgically back at a time or place. All of those experiences that you had, all the love and the joy and the excitement from those times still exist within your inner world and still can be accessed by slowing down, by remembering who you were, who still exists within you, and bringing that person alive again, feeding that person, that part of self, that child in self. So you can look into internal family systems as well to gain a better understanding of what the parts story orientation is, because you can start to name parts of your being. We all have so many parts and pieces. You might title your inner child a version of your name or something that you were named in childhood. I've always been Niece or Anissa. And then you can label the other parts of you, your inner parent. You can have compassion for your villain. You can have compassion for the little angel in you that knows better. You can have compassion for all of these sides of yourself. The disciplinarian who's like militant, health hacker, that's mine. But the beauty of the inner child particularly, and why I recommend going there, is we often see adults and we lose empathy for them. We lose compassion for them. But we see children and we see all this potential. And that's how we should be also looking at ourselves in these times of trying to go down the self-love journey and cultivate self-love by doing the things that our inner child would really feel good about, by speaking to ourselves as if that child is us here and now in our bodies listening to us. Who you were as a child, really visualize that in your mind's eye. Imagine the most expressive, alive version of you coming back to life within you. What dreams you used to have, what used to excite you, what used to light you up. Think about who you used to be friends with and why you were attracted to them. Can you surround yourself with more people who bring out that spark in you? Can you go to more places, spend more time actually absorbing things that allow your inner child to be more free and radiant? For myself, I have to go to dance classes to meet that inner child. I have to be in the physical, embodied playfulness to meet that inner child again. A lot of the self-love journey can be being the protector of that child in the beginning, to just honor that creativity, that curiosity, that wonder, that aliveness, that embodied moving excitement, and just focus on that part, focus on that piece. And then trust that life will inevitably guide you to honor more pieces and parts of yourself. Thank you, my sweet mirror, for sticking around. If this video resonated with you, I would love to know what part of it did in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and we'll keep going and growing. I appreciate you being here and sending you love in the days ahead.